I want you to get them. Come on, be with us. Tell me what you want.
I want to record that too.
Okay, well,
Start over when I get up there.
okay. I'll zip it.
So, how's your day so far, Dave?
I think he's doing great.
I need a cue card.
Okay.
All right, good.
Is that it?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? 'Cause I can't hear me.
I can hear you.
It's not on.
It's not on. There you go. That's on. I heard that.
It's zippity doo up.
Okay. All right. Have you ever heard me say that somebody know that you messed them Sunday, but if you're going to open your mouth and start meddling, or you're going to be negative, I pray that God put some holy duct tape on your mouth. You ever heard me say that? That's because sometimes, remember a couple of things. You communicate 24/7. You communicate 24/7. You communicate not only with your mouth, you communicate with your actions, you communicate with your body language, you communicate by not communicating. Okay? So some people, it's better, some of their best communications when they haven't said anything. Okay? It really is. So again, here it is. God has so much more experience in his life. He's provided a way in every situation. And I'm just going to go in there about bleeding. Yes. I thought I put one on there. I'm sorry. I thought I had one right down there. And here, I'll tell you what. You be the keeper in case somebody else. I'm expecting 100. I only made 33, but in case there's 100, we can make some more. That's a limited supply, but we can have another limited supply. People bleed to death, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. We need to find what God says about it, apply it, and stop the bleeding. So, communication, real quick. I mean, I've only got one little thing up here, and then we go right straight to tonight. Have you ever paused to evaluate the impact of how you communicate? Your words have the potential of bringing life or death to the heart of another. Your words, along with underlying attitudes, strengthen them in the Lord, stop the bleeding, but weaken their faith, cause bleeding. You know, I can sit there and there's bad things going on. Somebody, the doctors come in and give a bad report. A lot of times we sit there and the doctor gives a bad report, and I'm in there with them, and all of a sudden I'll hear some bad things. My sister one time, the doctor told my mama, said, it's not looking good, and it's really looking, matter of fact, it's looking kind of rough, and we don't know what we're going to do. My sister told my mama about 4 years before she died, said, if you want to go, it's okay, Mama, we can make it. And I said, sis, do me a favor. Be quiet. And I remember one time Mama's defibrillator went off, I think it was 28 times in one day. They had her in intensive care because it wouldn't quit going off. It just went boom, boom, boom. And I found out part of it was because her potassium was low. And there was something else. But I went there in the intensive care ward. She was laying there quiet with her eyes closed. And my brother and my sister said, you know, Mama's probably going to die from this. And I said, can I ask y'all to do me a favor? So I said, step outside. And they said, well, I said, because Mama can hear everything you're saying. They said, she's unconscious. I said, watch this. And I walked over to Mama, and I said, it's not your time yet. And she went, I know. So, Mama was sitting there hearing everything they had to say, all this negative, all this about her dying, but she didn't respond until somebody came along with some positive. So, again, you got to be careful how you talk to people. And this is what this was about, negative. Negative, negative, negative. Characteristic of negative communication. Every person must plead guilty. Y'all say every. Every person must plead guilty of some violation of God's ideal or communicate. Without thinking, we attempt to meet our inner needs by speaking or responding in ways that intimidate or destroy. You know, there's been times where honestly, I have to be honest about it. Especially some little punk kid. There was a punk kid that already said, Bethany, stay away from him. I don't want him around here. And he called, and so I said, is that boy that sounds like a girl? Intimidating. He said, yes, sir.
It was changing.
And I said, tell him, this is no joke. I said, tell him I have a shovel and a shotgun and a big backyard. Nobody ever mess him, and I'm not afraid to go back to prison. And he clicked. The phone went click. And a few months later, he had moved away. A few months later, we were in the nursery room with Linda's dad, and here he comes in. He sees me, and Bethany goes, "Well, there he is." Said he was moved away, and I said he should have stayed away. He walked outside, and I felt bad because he walked outside, and it was raining and kind of snowing a little bit. Raining, he stayed outside, wouldn't come in while I was there. I said I felt kind of bad. I mean, that close. That close. Okay? But I'm just trying to say is though, we know when we're saying things. Not all the time. We know a lot of times when we're saying things that, you know, how has ever said this? If I give them too many kudos, they'll quit working hard. Nobody's ever said that? How many spell that? Or if I encourage them too much, they won't be around. They'll go somewhere else. You know what we're doing? We're being God. I'm guilty. I'm not up here going, I'm up here going, okay? I like that when I was watching modern day shows shown around the world, and when I saw the Fonz, he went, and in France he went, oui, oui. Okay, so there we go.
Not the same.
Yeah, but no. So, every person must be guilty of some violation of God's ideal for communicating. Without thinking, we would intend to meet inner needs, usually our inner needs, listen carefully, our inner needs, by speaking or responding in ways that intimidate or destroy. The following words or ways are verbal, nonverbal, negative communication habits that serve only to wound or wrong others, and you can say keep them back. Okay? So, here they are. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, there's only 5 of them. But y'all can stay here as long as you want. We'll figure this out. Number 1, degrading words. The Bible says that reckless, hold on, let me change this thing. I want to read one more thing before I jump into that. A wise man's heart guides his mouth. All right? That's Proverbs 6, 16 and 23. Okay. A wise man's heart guides his mouth. Did y'all hear that? A wise man's heart. It's up here at the top. A wise man's heart. I like what I can't think what you call it now. The Amplified Bible says, it says the mind of the wise instructs his mouth and adds learning and persuasiveness to his lips. Wow. So a person that usually is hurting people, if they're doing it unconscious, because they're not being led by a wise heart, they're being led by a thick skull. I've done it. And or because I'm hurt. Here's what it is. I'm hurt. And so, because I'm hurt, I don't want you to succeed. Or because I'm hurt, I want you to know you hurt me. Or because I'm hurt, I'm going to hurt you more with my words. Oh, I'm a good Christian. I'm not going to go over there and pop you. I'm not even going to go there and hurt you. I'm just going to let my mouth do the talking. My mouth do the talking.
Shoot the wounded.
Yeah, that's right. So, degrading words. Reckless words pierce like a sword. Reckless words pierce like a sword. Here it is. There are those who speak rashly like the piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Wow, that's so powerful. Rash language cuts and maims, but there is healing in the words of the wise. Rash language cuts and maims. I remember seeing a cartoon one time. I remember Mama would always say, "Son, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you." And I remember one time I got an opening experience. I think it was at work. They put it up on the wall, a cartoon. And I can't remember who the cartoon was, but it said, sticks and stones will break, there was somebody talked bad to this kid. And then he said, well, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And he walks away, but he's gone down. His demeanor's changed, and all he can do is hear those words that were said. So you can say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, but let somebody say something bad to you. Yeah. You may digest it for 5 minutes, you may digest it for 5 hours, you may digest it for 5 days, you may digest it for 5 years. It does. So degrading words, examples. Now I put the examples here so I can show you what I'm talking about. Oh look, thoughtless, insensitive, teasing, critical, coarse, tactless. Anybody know what tactless is? Somebody tell me what tactless is.
Without tact.
Well, I know that. I mean, thank you. You put it out there bluntly, and sometimes, my dad, I love when my dad does. I don't love the way he does it. I'm just saying, sometimes we say we love that, doesn't mean we love it. It means we actually don't like it.
You're being sarcastic.
Yeah. Thank you. Sarcastic words. Thank you. That's right. So, Dad'll say, I'm just telling them like it is. And I'll tell my dad, no. I said, you don't like people telling you like it is. I said, and let me just tell you a little something about telling it like it is. No, there's always three truths in every situation. My truth, like it is. Your truth, like it is. And God's truth, like it really is. And if the truth be known, both of us are messed up, and both of us have some fault in it. Some might have more fault than others, but we've all still got it there. Okay. Critical, coarse, tactless, indelicate expressions, inappropriate words. I was watching MASH last night, and it was a very powerful one because I don't really like Winchester. Winchester's a big stuffed shirt. But there was this young man that was in there that operated on him. He was trying to, I think he was calling out coordinates, or he was doing something, but because of him, some guys had got hurt, along with himself. And so the captain came up and started talking to the guy, and he said, you're just some big dummy. You know that you got these guys hurt. And the guy tried to talk, and he couldn't because he was stuttering. He said, but I tried. And went on and on. And he said, no, you're just a big old dummy. Can't even talk. And Winchester came up and said, there'll be enough of that, Captain. And the captain said, well, it's my man. He says, well, I'm a major, or something like that. He says, now stop it now. That's an order. And then Winchester kept going to the guy and trying to help him out. The guy was reading comic books, and so he come to him, carried him in the room, so I'm going to do an x-ray on you. Carries him in the room and says, there's no x-ray machine in here. He says, no, I just want to talk to you with everybody around us. He said, I know you like comic books, but he said, have you ever thought about, he said, I'm just a dummy. He says, you're not a dummy. I looked up your records. You got a high IQ. He said, if you thought about reading something like this, and he took an edition of Moby Dick and gave to him. He said, but this is leather bound. I can't take this book. He says, please, it'll be an honor for you to take it. He said, and then he said, thank you. And he said, you're welcome. He said, don't everybody tell you you're a dummy. He said, just because you can't get it out doesn't mean it ain't in there, or something like that. And then as the show goes on, Winchester goes back to his tent and listens to a tape that was sent from his sister. And she goes, oh, hey, Charles, it's been a good day. She said, I went to the opera. And see, he was near to his heart because he had a sister who studied. You know? And so again, the captain was very, very mean. I don't know how Winchester didn't just go ahead and take something and stab him with a scalpel. You know? But again, indelicate expressions, inappropriate words. You know, I mean, sometimes without even thinking, we say some of the stupidest mess. I remember one time I did something that was so bad, I made sure, and I learned a very valuable lesson. My mother-in-law was going deaf. And she'd have the spray, and then my father would play the TV real loud, and she'd be trying to say, what'd you say? And I would tell her, I said, what'd you say? And I would tell her, I said, what'd you say? And I had to tell her 2 or 3 times. And so one day, she said, again, like 4 times, what'd you say? And I went. And she started crying. It tore her up. And I felt so bad. I went and hugged her and I said, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. I said, I was just aggravated. And I said, that was very thoughtless. Will you please forgive me? She said, yes, I will. But then she got me back because her stethoscope, she was in nursing school. Her stethoscope was a amplified stethoscope. And so I go in the bedroom and I'm an EMT and I'm trying to, and my heart was going real fast. I was trying to slow my heart down. And she had one of her books, How to Slow Your Heart Down. And so I'm reading How to Slow Your Heart Down. So I go in there and shut the door because DC and Daniel were little, they were aggravating me, and man, were they aggravating me. DC and Daniel's little, they're all hollering, the TV's on 900, you know. So I go in the room and I shut the door and I get her stethoscope out and I put it on. And I read the book, how to do it. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you know, I'm getting to slow down. It went boom, 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 boom. And I got it going, boom, 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 boom. I said, there you go, boom, boom. And then it went boom. And I said, I made it slow down too much. I'm dead. I really thought I was dead. And I said, oh no, what am I going to do now? Her amplified stethoscope had an automatic off button on it. And the Lord got me back because it went off just at the precise time I was trying to slow my heart down. It was awesome. Now it is. Back then it worked because it scared me. When I finally got it working again, my heart was going boom, 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 boom. Okay. Examples. Surely you don't believe that. Or he's very sensual and sexy. You know what? That can offend somebody. Okay? I mean, you got a couple of guys standing around going, well, she's nice looking. But you know what? You go up to somebody, especially go up to them, and say, you are so sensual. Number one, now it's called sexual harassment. For guys raised in the 80s, to them, it's not the same as the millennials. So, again, that's why I put this in here. That's inappropriate. And it hurts people's feelings. And you say it to your wife, sure. But I don't say it to the other woman. For 2 reasons. One, I don't believe in it. Number 2, I want to live.
Good answer.
That's a good answer. I remember what Linton told me. She's Italian. She told me we got married. She says, I got a cure for adultery. I said, what? She said, murder. Okay. Any thought on degrading words? Any thoughts?
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? I mean, have you ever been
from
degraded?
this group?
What?
From this group?
Yes, from this group. The Lord knows y'all love to talk. Look.
Those that hurt you, those words that hurt you, can last a super long time until the individual learns forgiveness from God and how to deal with it and how to get it out of it, so to speak, how to get it out of the system, how to forgive the individual it came from, how to receive God's forgiveness, how to receive God's peace with it, how to receive that Jesus carried to the cross and that it doesn't belong to you anymore. Just to get rid of it. It's not your burden anymore. Just let it go.
That's right. That's right. You know, I remember there was a lady who really helped out a lot. I just thought of her, we would call her grandmama. She really helped out a lot. And when my grandmama died, she was there, and she was just something. And I was living in Pampa County, and they come stay with us for a week, but they brought their camper, or their Winnebago, and they actually parked in the yard, and they stayed in that. And not in the house, but in that, and they just stayed over with us and did everything with us, and we'd go over there at night and go to sleep. And one day while I was there, I was working in the Oriental just before I started working at the TV shop in Alliance. And I said something about, all right, fellas, I got a little while, let's go swimming. And that's all I said. I told my brother, let's go swimming. And they said, well, we got things we got to do. I said, neither one of you got a job. I do. I'm trying to work around my job. I said, so let's go ahead and go now. And she just spoke right up with a very tactless, coarse, critical, insensitive, inappropriate response. And she said, I really pity the woman that marries you. And I said, why? She said, because you're so stuck in your ways. And that should not have offended me. But I was 17, and it offended me. And it took me years before, honestly, even today, she's 90-something years old. When I see her, I walk to her, I hug her neck, and I speak to her. And I still have to remind myself every time I see her that she is known for saying things like that, and just let it roll off your back. If she says something like me, and just let it roll off your back. I have to remind myself that. But see, I'm not going to play this little game where I'm not going to talk to her, and I'm going to hide from her, and all that. No. I just know that I prepare myself that if she says something like that again, I'm just going to let it roll off my back. So,
That's the devil's territory. He likes to play games with you.
what now?
The devil likes to get hold of you and play games with you. He knows that you've been hurt once and you got a sore spot. And he knows he can send a fire dart at you and pierce again.
Yeah, so I look out for that. I think about that. And there's people even now that I love dearly. And there's people in my family I love dearly, but they can say things that can hurt you, pierce your heart. And I said, remember the source. And if I can remember the source, I'll be okay. I got to remember the source. Because especially if you get around a lot of people, if you get around a lot of people like I am all the time, the chances of you being hurt by somebody's language is going to be happening all the time. You know, and like, let's just say, for instance, and I'm not saying poor pitiful me at all, not a bit. This has got nothing. I'm not throwing this out there because I'm going, oh, help me. But every day I have to judge, do I call this person, I go see this person, I blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, this person really needs a visit. This one's got a cat in the tree. And this one here has got an amputation, spiritually speaking. So which one do I go to? And I can go to one with the amputation and one with the cat tree, get mad and say something. Well, you didn't come see me. Well, he heard I was sick, he knew it. Yeah, I did. I called you. May I go see you? Maybe not, but I called you because I need to go over here. Take care of this one. And I've been sitting there before, and I go in to see somebody and go, I'll just find out they're sick. Just find out. And I go, well, it's about time you come. No, I'm not talking about you. No. Yeah, she did do that to me, though. Okay, no, she did. I was telling what she did. Now she brought that up, but that's fine. She told me that she was going to, as soon as she finds out, she's going to have this surgery. Well, her surgery is actually in a couple of weeks, but she had to have a pre-surgery to find out exploratory surgery. So I'm coming from someplace, and I'm stopping at the house, getting ready to go to New Bern to go to nursing home, and I get a call from Barbara. And she said, did you know that Norma was getting surgery now? I said, no, I didn't. She says, you might want to talk to her sister. So I texted Augusta. She says, yeah, we're getting ready to go in 15 minutes. And I said, well, I can't get there in 15 minutes. And so, but I also knew from my experience that it wouldn't be 15 minutes. It'd be an hour or more. And so it was funny because it was so funny because when I got there, I couldn't find you. And when I finally got there, it was still hours before they took her. And then hours, and then she loved that sleep so much she wouldn't wake up. You love that recovery room. You love that recovery room. Yeah. And so, it was funny, and I had a great time talking with Augusta, and I had a great time being with you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are flat out say things like, and then somebody might not know, well, you know what? I actually was with somebody else last night who needed counseling. I'm talking about people we know, not somebody off the street. People we know. I've been counseling them at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 6, and I'm doing some homework, and I go take care of my mother-in-law. Come on back. I get over here, and I've driven 300 miles in 2 days easily. I do 150 miles a day many times, and 1,000 miles a week, sometimes 1,500. And so I'm getting over there. If I could have a beam me up Scotty thing, it'd be awesome. We ain't got one yet. Yeah, we ain't got one of those yet. And so, yeah, Scotty retired. That's right. Captain Kirk got killed. No, not in real life. I mean, on Generations, he got killed. And so, last thing he said before he died was, "It was fun. It's been fun." You remember that? And he dies. Okay, and then Captain Picard takes over. All right. So, okay. So anyway about it, I'm thinking, or I've gone to the emergency room because somebody was taking over because their blood pressure was whatever, and I just took mine without even knowing about them. I just took mine, and mine was 20 points higher. I had the emergency room praying for them, and I got to hear them say something negative. So what I learned is over the years is I just let it roll on my back. My favorite one to hear is, "Oh, you only work 3 hours a week." You hear Bethany? Yeah. It's just 3 hours a week. You want to see DC and Daniel get mad? I'm talking about, I want to take you outside, drag you outside, and fight you. Say I only work 3 hours a week. Okay?
We know better.
And what I was going to say is, though, I'm just trying to say is, and see, all of us have these things. I can tell you a young lady that works many hours, and people don't even know it. She's in here right now, and she's sitting on the back row. I'm not going to mention her name, but her initials are Jeannie
More than
Bond.
that, I call her, she called me a young lady.
Okay.
Those people I'm older than.
Well, she is old lady, but I was trying to make her feel better. See, I wasn't going to be degrading. But the point I was trying to make is, nobody knows what you're doing. And so they might get upset and think, well, you're not working as hard as they are. You don't have it as bad as they got it. I hear them go, matter of fact, you won't ever hear me say this unless I'm cutting up with you. If I'm cutting up with you, you might hear it. You'll never hear me say, "You don't know nothing." I had a clerk one time. That was her way she ministered to people. "Well, I just had my finger cut off." "You don't know nothing. I lost 2 fingers." "Well, I just had my kidney go bad." "You don't know nothing. Both my kidneys went bad." "You don't know nothing." I'm thinking, that's not encouraging. All of a sudden I quit praying for me. I'm hitting her having a heart attack. I'm out and pray for me because you had 2 heart attacks. I can't pray for her heart attack. Okay. Again, you just have to be careful how you talk to people. And it's something that you just don't do overnight. You have to learn. You learn to keep practicing it, practicing it, and practicing it. And even though you practice it, sometimes the emotions get in the way. And sometimes, I got to admit, sometimes my emotions really get strong. I remember at Fountain, I was really doing good, and people come to me and said, "Tell us how to be calm like you. Tell us how to stay cool and under pressure." I mean, all people come to me, and "Can you come talk to us?" I was counseling people in boats and in offices, but then one day Daniel called me and said that the supervisor just told him he was nothing, good for nothing, he would never amount to anything. And I said, "That ain't going to happen." And I hung up the phone, and I got up, and I started to walk out of the office. One engineer says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Such and such just said Daniel was a no good, and he would never amount to anything." I said, "I'm going to go tell him just what, I'm going to go show him." And the engineer said, "David?" I said, "Yes, that's what they call me in most places." I said, "Sit down." And I said, "Why should I sit down? I'm getting ready to go take care of somebody where he won't be able to sit down." And they said, that's the problem, that's not you. Said, I've been knowing you for years, I've never seen you this riled up, ever. And I've seen a lot worse things than somebody telling my son he was good for nothing, never mind anything. A lot worse things than that. And I said, you're right. I said, just calm down. Be you. Don't let your emotions get in the way.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking, just last week they were asking me.
That's right.
And now, I mean, I can say, student become teacher. And so I sat down, and I went, and I talked to Daniel. I said, Daniel, that guy could be having a bad day. That guy never talks like this. Never talked like that before, has he? He says, no, Dad, never. I said, well, he's having a bad day, obviously. I said, so just consider that and just keep on going. You'll see it'll change. And the guy came back and apologized to him later. And I didn't have to get involved in it all, except for pray and tell Daniel to calm down. So again, we let our emotions get in the way. Okay? So now, demanding words. Anger is cruel and fury overwhelming. Proverbs 27. Okay. Anger is cruel and fury is overwhelming, demanding words. And that, let me read this here. It's Proverbs 27:4. Wrath is cruel and anger is an overwhelming flood. But who is able to stand before jealousy? And again, we're blasted by anger and swamped by rage. Who can survive jealousy? All right, that's the whole verse. Okay, ordering, threatening, arguing, cursing, accusing, probing, angry words. I was counseling somebody not long ago, and they said, somebody in my family, and they started telling me how they just eat them up and beat them up and bam, 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 bam. What do I do? And I pulled out the Bible and said, pray for those and bless those that curse you. And they said, how do I do that? And so I wrote them a little prayer to pray every day. I said, Lord bless, I put a blank. Lord bless these people. Bless them with their needs. Bless their hearts that they can hear from you. And Lord, bless their hearts to where they can learn to forgive. I said, just do it every day. They said, well, they've already said that they didn't want to be around me. I said, well, they've closed the door, but just look for cracks. And just bless them. Just keep blessing them. Don't stop. Just keep blessing them. I said, number one, they may not come back around, but God's watching you. God's not going to judge you on how they treat you. God's going to judge you on how you treated them. Wow. Think about that. God's not going to judge you on how they treated you. God's going to judge you on how you treated them. All right? Examples. You better do this now. Now, if you're a parent, that's fine.
Amen.
If you're a parent, that's your kid, you're training them. You better do this now. That's the difference. That's different. Okay, I'm not talking about that because Bethany was getting all happy. Why were you so late? Where were you? You need to go back to teasing and coarse, critical, tactless words, Beth. That's up here and degrading. Okay.
You said late.
Yeah, okay. Where were you? I had a guy when I pastored at Benson, he was so funny. I'd come up and see him doing something, and he'd be wore out. And I'd say, you need some help? And he'd say, no, just give me 5 minutes, I'll be through. He was being sarcastic. Just give me 5 minutes, I'll handle this. And I go help him, okay? Of course, one of the funniest things, and I remember I did preach a funeral just a couple of weeks ago in Benson, and I saw one of the guys, we were working up in the roof. It was so hot in that church. and we couldn't afford a new heating system or air conditioner at the time. But what we discovered is that there was no insulation in the roof. So one of the guys was talking to one of his guys he was working with, and says, I know a company that blows it in. I'll talk to them and see what they would charge you. And they said, we won't charge you anything, but you just got to put some little pieces of sheetrock or something, 4x8 sheetrock up to hold it when we put it on top of it. All right. And so we'd already put up ceiling fans. There were 6 ceiling fans in the church, which worked great. With them, we're up here, and he's handing me the sheetrock. The guy couldn't climb up because he'd had a stroke and he was still recovering. And so he's handing me up the sheetrock, and I'm up in the ceiling, and I'm walking the rafters putting the sheetrock down. And so I'm at the back. He hands me one, and when I go to step, and instead of stepping on the other rafter, I step right through the Celotex. And I fell, and I caught myself on the rafters. So I'm hanging. And so I finally get myself pulled back up. And I pulled myself back up. I didn't know because I didn't see down below too much, except for what I saw was that while the insulation had already been blown in, went down with that Celotex, and it was like a fog in that church because the ceiling fans are still going. And right where I was at was a big fog, and I had kicked as I was going down. I had kicked the ceiling fan. So instead of going like this, it was going. So he comes out, he looks, he's going, Brother David, and he's pushing things out of the way so he can see stuff. He says, Brother David, and he goes up and he sees that thing go, and he sees the Celotex pop. I mean, I took out some Celotex, I'm telling you. And so he goes and runs. I'm looking down, and he's looking down in between the pews going, Brother David, where you at? Brother David. Yeah, he thought I was falling down, busted up, and I was upstairs looking down there, but I got a good laugh after that. We talked about that. It's been years ago, but we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It was really funny. Okay.
In our ceiling.
Yeah.
You do get fussed up, but we didn't fall through.
Okay, so here we go. Anybody got anything so far about degrading or demanding words? You don't demand from people.
No.
I didn't even demand from my workers. I remember one time, this guy actually worked under me, but he weren't one of my people. He was actually the maintenance supervisor. It was his people, but because maintenance fell under me, I was still in charge. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I was. I didn't like it, but I was. And this one guy, we had OSHA come out and said that we were supposed to have our fountain was built a little bit at a time, and y'all guys helped build it. Build a little bit here, and then build a building here, and build a building here, and they would just keep moving things around, and all the chemicals were kept up in the building when it should have been at least. I think it was 70 feet from the building. And so 70 feet, 100 feet from the building. And so OSHA came in, saw it, and said, when I come back, they better not be here. And I said, yes, sir. And so I went and told the COO, and I said, you got any ideas? He said, no, but you do, go handle it. Okay, here we go. And so I was saying, Lord, got a problem. They think I got an answer. I ain't got nothing. I said, but I know you got the answer, Lord. So talk to me, Lord. And it was so awesome. I'm riding down the road, and I see one of those 695 shelters, metal shelters, and I said, oh, wow, that's awesome. Cement slab, and it's got to be up like, I don't know, 3 foot. I said, cinder blocks. And then I said, but now we got to do something. Oh, it had to be explosive proof. I mean, explosives. If a caught on fire exploded, it would be gone, disintegrated. And so I'm going, okay, Lord, now what we do? And I'm walking through in the Walmart one night in the back, in the garden center, and they had this mesh over top. And I said, it was raining, but just a little bit of trickle was coming. And you could see the sun. I said, because it went up for the garden center, I said, there it is. I said, where'd you get it from? He said, Lowe's. So I go to Lowe's, I get a piece of it, I come back, and I go to the COO, Because I never went with I never went with only one barrel, but I had both barrels loaded when I go to them. I said, here's a solution. We can put out a cement slat, we can go up with cinder blocks, we can put this thing out here, and then we can go to upholstery and we can get in and put snaps on it. We can put this around. If there's an explosion, it's gone. If it catches on fire, it's melted. He said, let's do it. So when I got the fire marshal said, don't you do a thing until you let me come inspect it. But OSHA was breathing down my throat. And so I called OSHA and said, what you think? He said, we love it. So I had it done. And then called the fire marshal. He was so mad at me. He said, didn't I tell you to call me boy? I said, okay, boy. He said, didn't I tell you? And I said, look, you told me I had 7 options. He said, yes. I said, I named up all the options. I wrote it down. He said, yeah, it's option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He says, yes. I said, well, I'm doing 3 of them. He says, yes. I said, then what are you complaining about? He went, okay, God, pray for God to give me wisdom when I talk to this very angry fire marshal. Okay, what I was going to say is, though, again, God is so awesome. He handled that. I didn't know what to do. So, but again, this guy was driving a fork truck in there. We had to put all the barrels a certain way, so if the inspectors came out, they could see the barrel, see the date, blah, 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 blah. But this guy kept taking the fork truck and turning it the wrong way, and the counterweight kept knocking 3 or 4 cinder blocks out. And they'd have to go ahead and put it back in. So I'd walk out to the guy, and I'd say, man, do you have a real fork truck license? And he said, sure, David. I said, well, can you prove it? And he said, how? I said, this is the 2nd time we've had to rebuild this thing. He says, I'm sorry. And so then he knocks it down a 3rd time. And the COO comes to me and says, their famous words, he didn't say directly, he just said indirectly, you may need to consider firing the next time. So I went to him and I said, can I talk to you? I could have said, we're going to fire you. No, I didn't. I went to him, put my arm around him, and I said, dude, we got a problem. We can't keep building over and over and over again. I said, if OSHA comes out or a Diener comes out while you've done this, we're in trouble because we've got to have it intact all the time, 24/7. And we can't keep it intact 24/7 if you've knocked it out 2 times in 1 week. I mean, you see, we don't even drive before you knock it out again. And he said, I know. And I said, I just need you to know something. He said, well, I said, this puts your job at risk. Whatever way. This puts your job at risk. And I said, I'm not talking it. I said, but I'm hearing it. I said, so can you do me a favor, and you a favor, and try to learn to handle that thing better? He said, oh, I got you, boss. I got you. I said, okay. And then, a couple weeks later, he come to me after he knocked it out again. And he said, I'm sorry, man, I'm going to have to leave you. And I thought, praise God. I said, why you got to leave me? He said, because I got a better job. I said, well, does it involve lift trucks and cinder blocks? He said, no. I saw that guy 5 years later at Ollie's at Christmas time. He ran to me and hugged me and said some of the best times of my life was working with you. And I was talking about that day. There was one guy, he was a Hispanic guy. There was we had a very explosive material, and it's so explosive that the barrel was coated with rubber, and it had a fusible link, so in case of a fire, it would shut it automatically. It was acetone. There was acetone and MEK, and we had it in there, and it was put on a cart and pulled through. And I'm out here in the chemical place where you get this stuff, and I hear this. And I said, what is that noise? And I turned around, and he was dragging and already gone past the rubber and was making sparks. And I looked at him and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "No English, man." And so I looked, I said, "Stop." And I walked over to him, and I pulled a little bit more. He goes, I said, "See that?" And he goes, "Uh-huh." I said, and I pulled it one more time, and it went, and I said, "What's this?" Boom! And I found out boom is the same in every language. Because he picked it up totally. He says, "Oh," and he said, "Gracias, senor, gracias, senor." Again, you don't have to demand. You don't have to demand. And some of your kids you may have to, but you don't have to demand. Okay, demeaning words. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. Moralizing, preaching, lecturing, judging, criticizing, disapproving, condemning words. I cannot stand somebody to preach to me, judge me, send me to hell, and don't even know me. Can't stand it. You ain't got to preach to me. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something. You want to have fun with me? Let's talk about something else. Unless you're having a problem, we'll talk about the Word. And if you just want to have a good time worshiping, we'll worship. But other than that, let's talk about fishing. Let's talk about some other things. It's really nice. You know, some good stuff that you can talk about. Because you know what? If all you talk about all the time, 24/7, is certain things, your life becomes encapsulated in that one thing, and you miss out on everything else. So, and I had a pastor one time that cut the grass in 3-piece suit. I kid you not. And there was 3 of us preachers that came out from under him. And one guy, he wouldn't conform no matter what. He was fine. Me, I was trying to conform like that preacher was, but I said, "This looks stupid. Mowing the grass in a 3-piece suit." But this other guy got sucked into it, and we had a King's Dominion day. And we're at King's Dominion. Everybody's around in shorts and short sleeve shirts, and he's walking around in a 3-piece suit. You couldn't even ride any rides. He's walking around in a 3-piece suit. Again. And that was, honestly, that was demeaning to me. You know, he's walking around, "Holy, holy, holy, don't touch me or I'll break." Or, "How great I am, how great I am." You know what? People, one of the best compliments I ever give people is, "Hey, you don't act like a pastor or preacher." Now, there's a difference, preacher and a pastor. You don't act like some of the preachers I've seen. You're not beating me up. You're not here trying to burn me down. You actually are a real person. I said, "Yeah, isn't that cool?" Preaching, lecturing, judging, criticizing, disapproving, condemning people. Look, and you can do it though without even realizing it. Because watch this. You never consider my feelings. You should do better than that. Here's the one Satan loves. If you really were a Christian then. How many's heard that?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard, if you really were a preacher, or you're supposed to be some kind of preacher. Well, I didn't call me that, God did. Okay? And I honestly, I don't want to grow a beard like that, but I like Duck Dynasty because those guys are all Christians, but you know what? They are hilarious. but they're all Christians, and they have a wonderful time. Yeah. Okay? Destructive words. With his mouth, the godless destroys his neighbor. Wow. That's powerful. With his mouth, the godless destroys his neighbor. And let's look over here. With his mouth, the godless man destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge and superior discernment shall the righteous be delivered. Here, a loose tongue of the godless spreads destruction. The common sense of a godly preserves him. there's people I see, and they'll come up to me, and they're trying to get information for prayer requests. No, they're not. I'm not talking about here. There's two ladies in my mother-in-law's neighborhood that live across the street. I call them Mouth of the South 1 and Mouth of the South 2.
I call them Twilly.
They know about the whole situation of everybody in that neighborhood. And they come to me constantly want to know things. And so Linda and I devised a little plan. I want you to watch this plan. They're always watching out the window and watching what we're doing. The other day, Linda took her mama to the doctor, so they said, I happened to see one of them at the store, and he goes, is everything okay? I said, sure, why? They said, well, your wife was taking her mama to the doctor. I said, for a regular checkup. He said, is everything okay? I said, sure. And I just kept trying to walk off. So Lynn and I devised a plan. So we figured we're going to break it. Here's what we did. The next night, we got the front door with a tape measure. We measure the tape measure this way, we measure it this way. We go down and we measure it, and then we go to my car and look at the back of the car and we measure it. And then we go to the back of Linda's car and we measure it. And we said, this one here. And so every time now at night I walk out, and last night we practiced carrying a body over our shoulder. And so we've been at, look, so we've practiced carrying it this way. We practiced carrying it this way. And so we can't wait, because the next couple of days we're going to take a body pillow and stick it rolled up into something. And just by the time it gets dark, we're going to drag it out. We're going to put it over his shoulders. And Linda said, what if they called the law? I said, we're going to get arrested for putting a body pillow in the back of the car. It's a body pillow.
Just getting rid of it.
But that was just humor. You know, it's the way, and all this craziness going on over there. It's just very humorous.
I had neighbors like that. And if I wanted to get them in their yard, all I had to do was run outside real quick and start doing something with intensity. And in 3 minutes, they'd be out in the yard cleaning up the yard watching me.
That's what happened the other day. The lady come out like she was going to do something, get the mail or something. And so, there I go. So I can't wait to figure out why we're measuring the door and why we're measuring the back of our cars. And then pull that body pillow out. It's going to be hilarious.
Wait a minute. I have one of those stories.
Go ahead. Good. I like to hear one.
When Mr. William Armstead went on vacation, Frank and Harold Wayne decided that they were going to mess with him. So they go over there, they had Dylan lay down on the ground, they did white paint on the ground like in the shape of a body, and they took yellow caution tape and put it all around his house. He was in Ohio. His phone was ringing non-stop. People, they did it the day before he was supposed to come home. They just wanted to startle him when he come home. He had people calling him going, you have body tape, there's something terrible happened at your house while you were gone. And it was just supposed to be a
joke.
Yeah, he rolled in the driveway joke. It wasn't supposed to be we're going to aggravate the life out of you. Vacation joke.
That's funny. There was a bunch of kids. There was like 9 of them in the family, and every time one of them got married, the other ones played practical jokes on them. And so this guy, when he goes to the kneeling bench, he's wearing a black tux, and he reaches where his hands go, and he goes, "Oh, there's nothing there." But they put the powder where his knees go. So when he gets up, he's got his white knees, right? The one before that, they actually put on the back of his shoes, because the kneeling bench, they were facing the preacher when they kneeled. And one shoe said, pray, and the other one said, for me. The other shoe, pray for me. Well, these people on their honeymoon, when they went on their honeymoon, they went, this is mean. They tore off they went to the house and tore off all the labels off of the cans. Dude, that was mean. But the funny one was, they took not styrofoam, but plastic wrap, and they covered every toilet. So you can't get a little crazy with the practical jokes. Yeah. But there's some guys in my church in Benson, they were crazy. I mean, they do things like go out and pull your spark plug wires off.
Yeah.
Or turn on, back then you could turn the radios up. Now you can't, but then you can turn it up real loud. Okay, here we go. Destructive words. Gossiping, repeating rumors, or confidences. Now what is repeating a confidence?
Because it was said in confidence and not to be repeated.
I was told in counseling, I was told right to start with, my very first counseling class, the kiss of death is to repeat what somebody told you in confidence. It's a kiss of death. You're going to ruin the relationship, your counseling relationship with them. You're probably going to ruin your relationship with them. They won't trust you anymore. So again, there's people come to me and say, well, what did they say? And I go, you have to ask them. What's really bad, though, is they tell me, don't tell anybody. But I go, okay. And I get to church, and I hear it 3 times on the way up to the pulpit. And I find out they done told other people, don't tell anybody. And everybody knows it, okay? But here you go. Spread the rumors, repeating rumors, same thing. Discrediting, belittling, blaming others, slandering words. I find out a lot of times people do that. Usually the people who do that the worst, the people who do that the worst are the people that have a low self-esteem. Low self-esteem will cause you to try to belittle somebody else because you're trying to feel big. And so I've discovered that I don't have to. I don't have to.
Got real quiet.
I know, I'm sitting there waiting.
There's a Mother Teresa quote, if you judge people, you have no time to love them.
That's right. That's
That's
awesome.
good.
I try to remind myself of that.
Wow.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm waiting. That was good, Vicki. That was excellent. You see, that's what, remember I talked about it Sunday? That's what Satan wants to do, is to get us that spiritual inferiority complexes.
I have another one.
Go for it.
This is the closing one because you're being too quiet. But anyway, I'm a little pencil in the hand of a writing God who is sending a love letter to the world.
Cool.
Ooh, that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Y'all gonna feel inferior to Vicki and not let her do all the talking? Everybody saying that? Vicki has very much wisdom. Vicki would. No, I'm gonna tell you. No, look. No. Vicki would not want you to feel inferior to her for anything. I can tell you that. I mean it that way, Vicki, because Vicki's awesome.
Yep.
I didn't mean it that way, Vicki, and y'all are awesome too. But so I'm trying to be. I'm teasing. I'm told you not to be teasing, but teasing's okay if you're not trying to hurt somebody.
I've noticed that most people who will tell you something and tell you not to tell anybody else is because they won't tell them themselves.
Also, I've discovered if somebody keeps talking to you about somebody all the time, be careful because they may be talking to them about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anybody who will lie for you will lie to you.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. They don't have a choice. Because they made the choice, because sowing and reaping, they made the choice to lie for you. They sowed a seed. And when that seed comes to harvest, they're going to lie to you. Whether they want to or not. That's sowing and reaping. Anybody who will lie for you, shall lie to you.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah,
I've seen guys that wanted you to do certain things to hurt somebody else. And if you're not careful, they have somebody else do the same thing to you, to hurt you. And so that's why I like to play. I want to play fair, play above board. You know, so at least, I know that if I play fair, you may think I'm a sissy, a wimp, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, whatever. But I remember somebody just recently told me, said, I work with them in Fountain, and they told me, said, you know, I learned so much, not just from me, there were several of us, there was a group of us, said, I learned so much from all y'all guys, and said, but you know what, there was one thing y'all were trying to teach me that I didn't listen to, and I handled the situation in a way I thought was the correct way, which was actually a dirty way to get to where they wanted. I consider it dirty. And they said, you know what, looking back over it, I should have done it y'all's way, because it haunts me doing that I did it the other way. So I'll never do it again. You know, you got, there's some heavy stuff out there, but a lot of times, and you don't have to feel spiritually inferiority all the time. You can just be feeling it for the moment. There's times when you just feel it for the moment. When you feel it for the moment, you respond because you're feeling it for that moment. You respond to what you're feeling for that moment, and then you do something you wish you hadn't done, because later on you go, why did I do that? Have you ever done that? Why did I do that? It's because for that moment, you were feeling inferior. And for that moment, you attacked versus you reacted versus being proactive. You reacted, and when you reacted, it was actually like a counterattack when you should have just. The Lord showed me something this week. I'm doing a sermon on it soon. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I'm God." The Lord spoke to me. I was telling somebody, Psalm 46:10, "Be still, let go, release your hold, and know that I'm God." Well, the Lord spoke to me and said, "Get out of the way and watch me move." And so I looked at Psalm 46:10 and started chasing it down really hard in the Hebrew. And in the Hebrew, one translation. I didn't see it in other translations, but it's in the Hebrew language. One of the translations in the Hebrew language is, "Be still, know that I'm God," is, "Get out of the way and watch me move." And so all week, I've been telling that, get out of the way and watch me move. I've been telling myself that, get out of the way and watch me move. The people I've been ministering to in certain situations, I say, get out of the way and watch him move. So, that's powerful. Very powerful. Because, look, if you're repeating rumors or conferences, you're discrediting, belittling, blaming others, slandering, gossiping, you know what? You are committing murder. And he said, "Thou shalt not murder." That's murder. Yes, ma'am.
I want to give a praise
Let it rip.
testimony. I don't know which category it falls under, but back when you were talking about earlier about if you'd heard you say something about go and testify to somebody or invite them in or make sure they come or that you're missing them, that sort of thing. I want you to know, and the rest of the people know, that I can name on at least 3 people and phone calling and in person and all, and then the body as a group when I'm here and when I see them, just contacting me and lifting me up and holding me through these surgeries and tests and all that I'm going through. I just want you to know that I feel you, and I know you're there, that I know it's the Lord working through you.
Well, you hang in there. You're gonna come out of this thing smelling like a rose. You watch. Because I know what kind of lotion they put on you in surgery. You're gonna come out of this thing smelling like a rose.
Got a real good example of what you were talking
preach of God, that whole situation was so wild because I was used to the choir coming out of the room with robes on, and they said, all right, choir, let's get ready to sing. And they came from the pews, and they come up, and I went, wow. I heard it. I said, this is, honestly, I looked over at Bear and I said, this is a kind of shabby looking group. But I never heard anybody sing like that. It was powerful. And then the preacher said, Brother Anderson, will you stand and lead us in prayer? And everybody stood and started praying. I looked over at Linton, Bear and said, I wonder how many Brother Andersons in this place. But you know what? I went back and back and back. Yeah, that's right. All right, deceitful words. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Proverbs 15:4. All right. Let's see here. A gentle tongue with the healing power is a tree of life, but willful contrariness breaks down the spirit. So, lying, false statements, exaggerating, bragging, boasting, flattering, insincere, untruthful words. I've heard this before. I never really get angry at anyone. Really? All right, if you never really get angry at anyone, let me pop you. And about time you start getting this feeling back in your face, I'll pop the other side.
Need a little bread, mustard, and cheese with that.
With that bologna?
Yeah.
My goal is to benefit others in any way I can. Well, I believe that. There is people who do that. I don't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just saying that sometimes they're trying to get out for themselves and they're trying to make you think, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. Like there's some charities and stuff that you're thinking all your money's going to the charity and being used, and only a little bit of it's being used, the rest of it's going to the yeah. And I can't stand that. Can't stand it. You know, you're gonna sit there and just like I think one of y'all told me, a lot of you told us in here that there was people out collecting money for a church, and they were about ready to donate. They said, "Where's the church at?" They said, "Durham." And they were, I think, in Pamlico County at Walmart. Was it you?
Yes, because I always ask anymore, just because of a couple of things that happened like that. But there was some gentlemen out there, and they were talking about helping the homeless, and there were people that were giving them money, and I said, y'all have a place here in Pamlico County? Oh, no, ma'am. I said, well, where are you from? Durham. They were from Durham, but they were in Pamlico County Walmart collecting money. I mean, it's not that I don't think that you have homeless people in Durham. I'm quite sure you do. But I also think you have a really large population that would probably take care of your homeless folks.
They weren't advertising either.
With it, yeah, and they weren't telling them.
So that was being deceitful. Yeah, that's being deceitful. It's kind of like, you know, it's like you see the guy out there asking for money, and then you watch him go in and see him buy a 6-pack and a carton of cigarettes, or you see him go get in a nice car and drive off.
I know there's a guy at Lowe's that stands out and has a jar, and he gets, at the end of the day, he gets in a nice vehicle that's parked over at Lowe's.
It gives everybody else a bad name. People that really need it, it gives them a bad name.
Yeah, I think I told the story before. There was a banker that had lost his job.
Yes.
And his wife, went 5 years unemployed, and his wife had no idea that he was unemployed, because he would go take his Mercedes or whatever it was he was driving, park it in a parking garage, go into a locker room, change from his 3-piece suit into hobo rags, go out and beg all day, and was taking in $50,000 a year. He spent 8 hours a day begging. He went back, changed back into his 3-piece suit, and went home, and his wife thought he was still working at the bank.
Well, that's like your chain stores also. You have to ask them sometimes. Dollar General and Aurora, every year they do a box with school supplies. And And years ago, when they first opened up, I said, okay, you know, and your school supplies go to, and they go, well, our national, you know, we send them back to, and I go, oh no, not if I'm donating your school supplies, they need to go to the local school. And that's what they do now with them.
Yeah.
Because enough of us said things, you know.
Well, because Beverly was a teacher, I knew firsthand. She would just tell me, we got kids who need a coat, kids who need shoes, kid here doesn't have whatever, and it was seriously show up for them. You know what I'm saying? But see, I don't mind giving, and I don't mind reaching out to help the needy, because that's what we do. But again, I don't want to step over 3 people in need to take care of somebody 200 miles away. It's kind of like people that would break their neck and give money to go overseas to a missionary, but won't step across the street and invite their friend to church. That's sad. I honestly think God's going to look at that and go, you know what? I'm proud that you sent money to Africa, but you know, that kind of trumped it when you didn't step across the street and invite your friends, you know, to church. So, let's see, did we go through all of them? There we go. We did. Lying, false statements, exaggerating, bragging, boasting. I sit there sometimes and